Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Duane Toews is reporting from the Kansas Forage and Grassland Council's annual meeting and winter conference, where he catches up with Jerry Gano with Forage Genetics International, Rick Furnish from Guymon, Oklahoma. Next, we have our weekly Kansas soybean update, Jaymelynn Farney with Kansas State Research and Extension, and Jeff Whitworth, an entomologist from K-State. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Let's catch up with Duane and Jerry Gano and learn about Harvextra, new technology in alfalfa.
Duane Toews joining you once again on Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity while at the Kansas Forage and Grassland Council annual meeting and winter conference, a chance to catch up with Jerry Gano with Forage Genetics International. Jerry, you were one of the speakers at the conference this year, and I understand from an alfalfa perspective, some pretty exciting news was shared.
Yes, Duane, appreciate the privilege of visiting with you today and with those that are attending the conference here today as well. We are excited to be talking about new technologies in alfalfa, and that's the theme of the talk that I'll be presenting today. And we're going to be looking at Harvextra, which is a brand new technology being launched here in early winter of 2015.
We think about alfalfa and improvements in production, obviously. For those that are shooting for that high-end market, not only tonnage, but quality is awfully important.
It is. You have to have both the tonnage and the quality as a combination in order to access the highest dollar market that there is out there. And with the Harvextra technology, we're able to achieve higher than normal quality in a product, as well as the ability to produce higher tonnage with delayed harvest. We can have either one of those or a combination of both of those.
Talking about those technologies, they don't just happen. We don't just happen to find those in the field. A lot of research that goes on by companies to make that happen.
There is a lot of research. This type of research takes about 10 years to develop and bring to the marketplace. And so it's been a road that has been run, and we're now at the launch point and excited about that.
Forage Genetics International, obviously the genetics in the name, but it is those genetics and a very large pool that you deal with to try and bring those very elite varieties to the forefront.
There is a very large pool, and it ranges in dormancies from fall dormant 3 products, which is utilized in the northern United States and the mountain regions, as well as in Canada, to non-dormants, fall dormancy 10, which is utilized in the lower part of the United States, as well as into Mexico and foreign countries.
So tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, what advancements and why we've seen some of those, say, in the last 10 years.
In the last 10 years, we've introduced Roundup Ready technology in the alfalfa arena. That's been utilized by thousands of growers throughout the United States with huge benefit that is accompanying that. Today we're launching the Harvextra technology, the reduced lignin segment of the industry, focused on high yields along with very high quality. And in addition to that, in the future we're looking towards a product that will be called a bypass protein alfalfa, allowing producers to utilize more of the protein that is found in alfalfa. We're excited to be looking forward to that day as well.
Well, our thanks to Jerry Gano with Forage Genetics International joining us at the Kansas Forage and Grassland Council annual meeting and winter conference in Manhattan, Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you in studio for more Ag AM in Kansas.
Stay with us here on Farm Factor. Duane will be back with Rick Furnish from Guymon, Oklahoma.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To To learn more, visit kscorn.com. Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Ag AM in Kansas brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
We're back. Let's join Duane and Rick Furnish as they discuss Old World Bluestem.
Duane Toews joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, while at the Kansas Grassland and Forage Council, an opportunity to talk with Rick Furnish from Guymon, Oklahoma, about Old World Bluestem. Rick, you give a little different perspective than certainly those in central and eastern Kansas would look at it. It's a more viable proposition for those in those low rainfall areas.
Yes, sir. You know, we live in different worlds, and what will work for them doesn't work for us, and what works for us probably wasn't going to work for them. You know, and we don't have much trouble with invasion. They do. So, you know, I understand their plight, and I wouldn't recommend anything or try to tell anybody how to run stuff that's not in my area.
You've come through a period of extreme drought, panhandle of Oklahoma, western Kansas, north panhandle of Texas. Have things turned around for you at all at this point as far as the moisture is concerned after this last summer and fall?
Well, I hope so. You know, we went from 3.5 or 4 inches of rainfall in 14 to this year we got 27.4 inches. But, you know, I don't know that the drought's broken. I appreciate all the moisture, but I hope it continues, but I wouldn't bet on it.
So talk a little bit about ranch management in that area, utilizing Old World Bluestem. What kind of gains do you expect, and are we talking about stock or kettle or pairs that you're working with primarily?
We work with exclusively stocker cattle. We run about 1 to the acre. We get about £1.75 per acre for 90 days. You know, it's a 90-day grass out where we live. And that's, you know, you can run cows on it, and people that do that in our area, they utilize it for the whole year.
You're in a part of the world where opportunity to utilize manure is pretty readily available, I understand. Is that something that's worked for you with the Old World Bluestem there?
No, sir. We haven't used. We've put some on, some pig effluent. We've put some on, and it basically eliminated our grass over a period of time because of the salt.
As far as your final take-home message then for those individuals that were here at the conference in Manhattan about Old World Bluestem?
I would tell them to do what works for them, because, you know, that's what we all have to do. You know, what they do won't work for me, and what I do might not work for them. But I was just telling them what we do.
Well, our thanks to Rick Furnish with Hitch Ranch out of Guymon, Oklahoma. Spoke at the Kansas Forage and Grassland Council Winter Conference in Manhattan. Certainly a product or a plant species that works in Guymon, Oklahoma that Manhattan, Kansas may not be so fond of. Jamie, back to you in studio.
Thanks, Duane. Next up here on Farm Factor, this week's Kansas soybean update. Don't go away.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas soybean update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Stu Duncan, K-State Northeast Area Crops and Soil Specialist, is joining us. And Stu, in the latter part of January, K-State's going to be hosting 4 soybean production schools.
This is our third year of these schools. And it's something, we've had a lot of support from the Kansas Soybean Commission and the Soybean Association. These have been very well accepted the last 2 years. We've got 4 of them set up across the state. Folks that are looking to attend can check our online at agronomy.ksu.edu, or they can call or visit their local extension office. We begin on the 25th of January out at Great Bend, and then Tuesday the 26th we go to Overbrook. On January 28th we go to Beloit. We'll be meeting at Beloit, and on the 29th, on Friday, we will be meeting in Marysville. So all of these programs start at 9 in the morning. We'd really appreciate it if they could get the registrations so we can get a count for numbers and such by January 22nd, especially since, we have a meal plan so we can get a count.
And, Stu, what will be some of the topics that producers will see at these schools?
We've got a couple new features we're using, too. Some rapid fire talks on a 15 to 20-minute type of platform so that we can get a question and answer in, but there's a real emphasis is going to be on weed control, and we have had such a shift in resistance in the weed species and just real issues having some good control. So the information is going to be concerning weed control, production practices, fertility topics, economics, our nutrient management, diseases, and such. And we're also, with these rapid fire talks, we're going to be getting into areas covering big data collection and management, calibrating yield monitors. We'll have at a couple of the schools, the further west ones, potentially, and a farmer panels to exchange information with the cooperators. So we'll have kind of a formal presentations earlier in the day, updates that will cover weed control, nutrient management, our production practices, disease management, something that's we've been able to focus more on the last few years. Then we'll have a lunch break with the lunch sponsored by our Kansas Soybean Commission and other sponsors, and then we'll have those rapid fire talks. And there'll be a variety of those, and they will be different at different locations, at least the rapid fires will be.
That's Stu Duncan, K-State Northeast Area Crops and Soil Specialist, as he joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay tuned after the break as Duane catches up with K-State's Dr. Jaymelynn Farney.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag. Farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Thanks for staying with us. Now we'll join Duane and Jaymelynn Farney as they talk about grazing cattle on a cropping enterprise to diversify your operation.
Duane Toews joining you once again with Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity while the Kansas Grassland and Forage Conference in Manhattan to catch up with Jaymelynn Farney from the southeast part of the state for K-State Research and Extension. And Jaymelynn, you talked to growers about some opportunities as far as a livestock enterprise being a part of cover crops. Can you give us a little synopsis of some of the things that you talked with the growers about?
Yes, sir, I can. One thing is putting cattle within your cropping enterprise is a way to diversify your operation to be able to generate some revenue that you might not necessarily see just directly with the cover crops. Now, these cover crops that are grazed by cattle are very high quality forages, and as such, when they are grazed by cattle, we should probably call them a forage crop instead of a cover crop. But most of them that are planted, your grasses, barley, wheat, triticale, oats, rye, etc., offer more than 20% crude protein, which is significantly higher than any class of livestock, including a lactating dairy cow. As well, brassicas are very common. Your turnips, radish, rape, kale, etc. are very common in Kansas, provide a lot of tonnage, also very high quality, high energy, high protein feed for cattle.
Jaymelynn, we think about the cost of doing so. There will be those purists out there, I'm sure, that felt like the cover crops were intended to be a soil amendment or improvement. And maybe a purist wouldn't like to see a livestock operation grazing those off, but it sounds like maybe there's some research that says it can be mutually beneficial.
Yes. If you think about the bovine, what goes in and isn't utilized for tissue growth eventually comes back out in the form of a very high nitrogen, high quality, easy to be incorporated back into the soil, fecal matter, and urine. So, even though, from an organic matter and nitrogen perspective, cattle provide a lot of it. There's actually research out there that shows that just putting cattle within the system, you can incorporate 3 times as much nitrogen into the soil down to 1 meter or 3 feet deep versus not having cattle. So, incorporating cattle shouldn't negatively impact your soil benefits and might actually speed up some of the processes, especially from the organic matter perspective. Cattle have already done the hard work. Fecal matter is already digested, ready for the soil microbes.
Well, our thanks to Jaymelynn Farney from K-State Research and Extension out of the southeast part of the state at the Kansas Grassland and Forage Conference here in Manhattan, Kansas at their winter meetings. Jamie, back to you.
Be sure and come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau Legislative Update with Ryan Flickner.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
Now for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau Legislative Update with Ryan Flickner.
I've had the opportunity to talk to legislators before the session starts, and I think there's almost unanimous agreement, but probably not quite, that the session will likely be, or hopefully be, shorter than usual. It is an election year, so I think that probably plays into it. But no doubt about it, some of the budget numbers and revenue numbers weren't quite where expectations and estimates thought they would be. So I think, once again, we're going to be discussing budgets and taxes and revenues. But getting away, I guess, a little bit of just the budget and revenue picture, I think some of the other bills likely to come up, maybe a couple of them from the Department of Agriculture that will impact rural Kansas and Kansans, dealing with some water rights and MIFAs and penalty matrix, as well as a noxious weeds bill that the Department of Agriculture and county weed directors have been working on for a couple of sessions now. That seems to be kind of the major weight of the session from an agricultural perspective, at least at this point in time.
Don't go away. After the break, Duane visits with K-State's Dr. Jeff Whitworth about insect control in alfalfa.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor as Duane and Dr. Jeff Whitworth discuss the top pests that Kansas's alfalfa producers need to look out for.
Duane Toews joining you with Ag AM in Kansas, and while at the Kansas Forage and Grassland Council winter meeting in Manhattan, chance to catch up with Jeff Whitworth from K-State Research and Extension and Entomology Department. Jeff, you had the opportunity to talk to growers about insect control in alfalfa, and there's some predominant ones that we seem to have to deal with each and every year.
Yes, unfortunately there are. The alfalfa weevil is the one that causes problems every year. It's one of the two insects in Kansas that I consider to be a serious or severe pest. The other one's a sunflower head moth on sunflowers. But what that means is you have to spray for them every year. So if you do not want to donate part of your crop, you're going to have to treat for the alfalfa weevil. And that's the insect of interest for most alfalfa producers in Kansas. The problem with the alfalfa weevil is it's very active. It comes on very early, anywhere from late February to mid-April. And as you know, Duane, the weather can be very different at that time of year. You can have hot, cold, snow, sleet, all kinds of vagaries in the weather, and that causes havoc with trying to control the alfalfa weevil. Plus, the alfalfa weevil overwinters in Kansas, but it's a cool weather insect. So anytime the temperature's above 48 to 50 degrees, it's active. So right now, in November, December, it's been laying eggs in the stems. Those eggs are developing a little bit anytime the temperature's over 48 to 50 degrees. And then they'll continue to feed, the adults will. They will continue to lay eggs in January, February, and March. Those eggs that were laid in November and December will hatch early. Those eggs that were laid in January, February, and March won't hatch until April or May. So you have a 2 to 3 month period of time when those eggs are hatching, and those larvae, that's the damaging stage, are actually feeding in the alfalfa. So it makes it very difficult to try and time the application of an insecticide once you decide you needed to treat. With the alfalfa weevil, it's not so much as if you need to treat, it's more when are you going to treat. So that's what we've been looking at, is trying to figure out the best way to time applications to help control alfalfa weevils.
Quick thoughts on the other pest that is typically a problem for us?
The other pest that I consider year after year is potato leafhopper. That's an insect that I don't think gets enough credit for as much damage as it does. It can cause damage two different ways. Number one, it sucks the juice out of the plant. Number two, it introduces a toxin into the plant and can cause what we call hopper burn, which is a yellowing of the leaves. If they're severe enough, it can go down the stem, can actually kill out a plant. Usually in Kansas in the last few years, we haven't had populations enough to cause death of plants, but in the last 2 or 3 years, we were noticing increase in populations, and they don't overwinter in Kansas. Potato leafhoppers before have not overwintered in Kansas. In the last 2 years, we found them in late October, and they're doing damage in late October, which is an anomaly because, as you know, most growers cut 4 times, maybe 5 times a year, and they quit in September, October, and let that regrowth occur so it can put some food stocks down into the root system. Well, when you have potato leafhoppers there in October and November causing the deadening of the plant, killing the plants out, that's not going to happen. So we've not seen it before. I hope it's just an anomaly. I hope it doesn't continue to be a problem. But in the last 2 years, 2014, 2015, the potato leafhoppers have been here clear up through October. We haven't looked in November and December, and I'm really kind of scared to go out and look. They might still be there, but normally they don't overwinter in Kansas.
Our thanks to Jeff Whitworth with Entomology Department at Kansas State University, joining us at the Kansas Forage and Grassland Council Annual Meeting and Winter Conference in Manhattan. Jamie, back to you.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.